Hello friends, welcome back to Work Medicos. In this video we will study about the anatomy of urinary bladder. So let's start. First is the features. The urinary bladder is the muscular reservoir of urine. What does it mean? Whatever blood which is purified by the kidneys via the ureter, it gets stored in the urinary bladder. So urinary bladder act as a reservoir of urine. Okay. Next is, it lies in the anterior part of pelvic cavity. What does it mean by that? As you can see, here are the various cavities. This is the thoracic cavity, the abdominal cavity, and here we have the pelvic cavity. So urinary bladder lies in the anterior part of pelvic cavity. This is the diagram of a female pelvic cavity. So in the anterior part you can see there is the urinary bladder. In the middle this is the uterus, and this posteriorly there is present rectum. In males obviously there is no uterus, so directly you have the urinary bladder and the rectum. I hope these points are clear to you. The shape of the urinary bladder, when it is empty it is tetrahedral in shape, and when it is full it is ovoid in shape. We will study this in the external features. Firstly, the external features we will study. Firstly, the surfaces and borders. So urinary bladder has three surfaces, that is superior, right and left inferolateral. This is the 3D model of the urinary system. This you can see is the urinary bladder. Firstly, we will see about the surfaces. First you have the superior surface. This triangular area, complete triangular area which you can see, is the superior surface of the urinary bladder. As you can see, this urinary bladder is tetrahedral in shape. It is completely empty, so it is tetrahedral in shape. Next are the inferolateral surfaces. This I am showing you from laterally. This triangular area from the lateral view which you can see is the inferolateral surface, means it lies inferiorly and laterally. This triangular area which you can see is the inferolateral surface. Similarly, on the opposite side there is inferolateral surface again. Okay, we have seen three surfaces. First one was the superior surface and two surface laterally. Next we will see the apex, base and neck. This part which you can see is called the apex of the urinary bladder. Not completely this is the ligament which we will study later. So the anterior part, this anterior pointed part which you can see is called the apex of the urinary bladder. Now the neck is present. Obviously the name suggests the neck is present below the urinary bladder. Here the green highlighted part which you can see, the neck is present over here. Okay, I hope it's clear. And lastly we will see the base. This green area which you can see posteriorly is known as the base of the urinary bladder. Base or fundus of the urinary bladder. Okay, so we will revise everything. The superior thing, this is the superior surface. Okay, next one was the inferolateral surface on both the sides which are present inferiorly and laterally. Here is present the apex, below is present the neck of the urinary bladder, posteriorly it is present base or fundus of the urinary bladder. Okay, and lastly we will study about all the borders of the urinary bladder. So now we'll study about the four borders of the urinary bladder. These are two lateral, anterior and posterior. So the borders are not completely prominent, but we'll see it. Two lateral borders. So the lateral border is present over here, which separates the superior surface and the inferolateral surface. Okay, this is the lateral border. Similarly, it is present over here also, which will separate the superior and inferolateral surface, the lateral borders. So we are done with the two lateral borders and one anterior border. Anterior border, which is present over here below the apex, the whole anterior border runs down. Okay, and lastly the posterior border. The posterior border will separate the superior surface and the base of the urinary bladder. This was the superior surface, this was the base or the fundus, and in between them the border which separates these two surfaces is the posterior border. Okay, so we are done with the borders also. Here will be present anterior border, two lateral borders on both the sides which separates superior and inferolateral surface, and posterior border which separates the superior and base of the urinary bladder. This was the external feature of the urinary bladder in an empty bladder. Okay, in full bladder there is present only apex, neck and two surfaces, which is the anterior and posterior border. So we are done with the anatomy of urinary bladder. Thanks for watching.